today. So I think with that in mind, if we could keep side conversations to a minimum, at least during the presentation, actually during the public comment as well, so that people joining online can also hear. That would be very, very helpful for us. And that being said, if you do not want to have your comments recorded, we want to be respectful of that. So we pass around note cards, or we will also show an email address on the screen at the end. So if you prefer to use that method to share your comments with us, feel free. We know it takes a lot to speak publicly, so commiserate with that immensely. And there's pens out the front if you want to write your comments down. I think those are all our rules to begin with. We'll start today with a really quick presentation, but do want to leave the majority of our time to hear from everyone, which is why we're here today. So we'll have the majority of our time today be focused on public comment. Before I jump into the meat of the presentation, I'd love to start with a few introductions. So I'm joined here today by members of the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, in particular, members of the air quality team and IDEM's chief of staff. They are the grant recipients. And so we're really pleased to have them here, really grateful that they're bringing this opportunity to the state. I'd also like to introduce our facilitation team, just so you know who we are walking around with these name tags. I'm Amanda Mast. I'm a senior manager here with Kleinco, and we are a sustainability firm with expertise across sectors in Indiana. And to give you a little background on why we're participating today, we're supporting this grant in two different ways. First, through facilitating public meetings like these, and then second, we're also providing technical assistance to support plan development. So for those who are just joining the room now and didn't see the cover slide, we are here today very excited to kick off Indiana's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. And we'll explain in a little bit how this grant is supporting the creation of the plan, which is called the Priority Climate Action Plan. We'll get into the details a little later. So with those logistical notes covered, with introductions, I think we're ready to get started with a few words of welcome. Carbonate, if you'd like to.
Is the mic up there?
Yes.
Can people hear me? Are you sure you want me to try that? All right. I apologize for that. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. My name is Parvani Stover. I'm the Chief of Staff for the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. Like Amanda said, with me today, we have staff from our Office of Air Quality and our communications team. So thank you guys for being here to help us put together this meeting. And for members of the public joining us, I'm really happy that you're here with us today. So thanks so much for making time in your evening for us. This is the second in a series of public meetings that we are hosting to hear from community members and stakeholders on greenhouse gas reduction ideas and items plans for the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. Our first meeting was a couple weeks ago in Indianapolis, and we had a really great turnout. And I was really encouraged by the positive feedback and dialogue that we had from all the folks who showed up to speak. So I'm excited to be here today and to listen to the ideas you have and learn more about the work that's being done in this part of the state. And on a personal note, I'm particularly excited to be here because I grew up in Fort Wayne, Snyder High School graduate. So thank you for hosting me. Thank you for allowing me to come back to my hometown. I'm really glad to be here. The planning work that you guys are helping us with today will give Indiana access to over $4 billion in future grant funding from EPA that cities, companies, universities, and others can use to voluntarily lower or reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. From an IDEM perspective, we're here today to promote sustainability, enhance our state's resiliency to environmental challenges, and safeguard our precious natural resources. So I sincerely appreciate everybody's participation today. I can't wait to hear what ideas you guys have. And we at IDEM view this is just the start of a new and really exciting collaboration. I look forward to hearing all of your ideas and solutions that we hear from this meeting so we can plan and execute the most viable options. This grant opportunity is a really great opportunity for our state, so I hope to see a lot of Hoosiers participate. So I'm glad to see that we have a packed house here. So now I will give it back to Amanda and our facilitators from the Kleinco team to run through an overview of the effort and ways that you guys can get involved. Thank you so much.
Is my mic back on? Very good. Okay, great. So as I mentioned before, we'll go through a quick presentation before opening up for comments. You wouldn't mind moving to the next slide? So we'll cover a high level overview of the grant, though we'll also direct you to the website if you need more information. We have tons of detail available. We'd love for you to dig in. We'll share what this grant is, how it can serve Indiana. We'll share opportunities to continue to participate, though today is a great start. And then finally, we'll open it up for public comment. So starting with an overview of the grant, and these slides are available on the website as well, if it's a little hard to see. So as Parvani mentioned, Indiana has received a grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and this grant will fund that plan that you mentioned, a plan to reduce pollution in the state while also benefiting communities and creating jobs. And once we develop this plan collectively with stakeholder input, we can submit it back to the EPA and be eligible for that additional $4.6 billion in federal funding. And so it'd be great to create a really competitive plan and bring some of that funding to Indiana. If you wouldn't mind moving on to the next one. Yes, so broad engagement is absolutely essential to the success of plan creation. On the screen, I've highlighted the logos of some of the members of the coalition who will be working together to really steward the decision-making process and meet grant requirements. Not pictured on the slide, but perhaps even more important are the many members of communities, nonprofits, academia, and industry whose opinions are absolutely essential, which is why we're focused on these public meetings from the start to begin to gather this important information. So focusing on the grant requirements. This grant will fund a number of activities over the next 4 years, all focused on building that pollution reduction plan. This starts with the creation of a priority action plan. That one is due by March of 2024, so a pretty accelerated timeframe. Good news is that we do have the chance to further build upon that plan with a more comprehensive plan. That's due in 2025, so we have a little more time. And I wanted to highlight some of the many activities that are also included, many analyses, but I won't go into them in detail. If you want more information though, it's all available both on IDEM's website and the EPA website as well. So what I do want to focus on is our near-term timeline to build that priority action plan by March of 2024. So right now we're focused on the stakeholder engagement, starting with these 4 public meetings, as Parvani mentioned, followed by a request for inputs. We'll share a survey with you, an email link for you to provide input back to us. And again, we're really focused on collecting all that information so that we can represent the many different communities and different stakeholders across the state in the plan that we develop and build one that's right for Indiana. So what does this plan need to include? Essentially, we need to identify actions that meet the 3 core grant goals: benefiting communities, creating jobs, and reducing pollution. You'll hear me repeat that over and over as the really key themes for today. So an example of a kind of action we could identify is improving the energy efficiency of a house to save households money and reduce energy demand as well. Joint collaboration partnerships are absolutely key, again, so we can identify actions that will benefit community members here in the state. If you wouldn't mind moving forward. So as we mentioned, we'll create this plan, submit it back to the EPA. So we will be competing with other states for that larger pool of federal funding. To create a plan that's really competitive, we'll want to make sure to identify actions that address some of the key sources of emissions in the state of Indiana. On the screen, you can see Indiana's greenhouse gas footprint, which highlights transportation, electricity generation, and industry as some key areas of opportunity for us. At the same time, we're open to look at ideas across sectors as well. And given our really rapid timeframe, we've done some legwork already, reviewing more than 50 measures at the community, company, and state level, best practices from across the US. We then focused in on a short list of measures, draft actions that could be considered for the priority action plan. And the way we narrowed in on these, we're looking at a few criteria. So first, the ones that meet the benefits required of the grant, so benefiting communities, creating jobs, reducing pollution. Then we also considered the different emission sources that are relevant to Indiana, so making it more customized for the state. And finally, looked at which would be more likely to receive federal funding based on the pools of funding available. So these were all the lenses that we used to identify the short list of potential actions. I'm going to go through a couple of these actions at a high level today, just to get us thinking, kick off the input collection process, And all of them are posted online in addition to the full list that we considered. So please go to the website, take a look and review when you have a little more time as well. I do want to highlight though, as we jump into these next slides, that these are draft actions. As I showed in our timeline, we are just beginning the stakeholder engagement process. So really welcome your input, your thoughts on these actions, ones that could benefit you, ones that you have concerns about. And if you have ideas for other actions that you or your organizations are already working on, please let us know. So running through a few of these actions at a high level today. The first is focused on expanding the renewable energy available in Indiana. So this could be through new renewable energy development, whether that's wind or potentially rooftop solar, depending on community preferences, or it could be things like increasing energy storage through batteries. Moving on to the next draft measure, this one focuses on improving the energy efficiency of appliances, equipment, and buildings to save households money, and so they're also better equipped for weather as well. This could be through things like improving the insulation of the building so that more heat stays inside during the winter, or providing purchase incentives so that people can upgrade equipment so that it costs less to stay cool in the summertime. The next measure focuses on reducing air pollution around roads through increasing the use of electric vehicles in Indiana. This could be achieved through converting city or state fleets, through purchase incentives, or through continuing the work that's already ongoing by expanding chargers available throughout the state. And this also benefits communities by improving local air quality for anyone who lives or works by a road or highway or in Indiana cities as well. The next measure focuses on improving access to high occupancy vehicles, further reducing emissions. And this can be achieved through increasing bus routes to underserved areas, to areas in high demand. It can also be achieved through a number of different measures to increase high occupancy vehicles and encourage ride sharing throughout the state. And the last one I'll cover in detail today is also relatively simple. It's focused on reducing emissions by reducing what we throw away to landfill. So this could be achieved through increasing composting programs, whether that's in residences or in commercial areas, or it could be through efforts to simply reduce the food that gets wasted in the first place. So many different mechanisms that also help food and materials to stay in Indiana systems and get reused. Move to the next slide. Yeah. So there are a bunch of different actions that are included in our draft action list. I'll run through them just at a high level. So these include carbon sequestration, could be through agricultural best practices, through other sources of low carbon energy beyond renewables, could also be through electrifying industrial processes, reducing industrial emissions with other mechanisms, and finally through increasing use of renewable natural gas. So many measures, and I know we covered them quickly, but we are really eager for everyone's feedback. So please do take your time reviewing these online. We're really eager to hear again, ones that could benefit you, and also alternative ideas you have for any actions that can meet the grant requirements, could benefit you and your communities, and also are ready to implement, because again, this grant program, the timelines are moving very quickly. So to help us gather that feedback, we have a couple resources for you. And I know it might be hard to see, so we'll leave this up after we give the presentation if you want to get a little closer and scan the codes. So the first resource we have is the information hub I was mentioning on IDEN's website. It includes all the information and more that you could want on this grant program, the timelines. It also has a listserv you can sign up for if you want to receive regular updates on the program. In addition to that, the second box is our ask of you. If you could please follow this link and fill out the survey. That's a really organized way for us to hear everyone's preferences, hear about initiatives that could benefit you, concerns you have as well. So please do take just 5 minutes to fill that out. One note there, we do ask and require that people enter their zip code. It is solely so that we can identify the communities represented, because we do want to get diverse representation across the state. We promise it will not be used for any other purpose beyond that. And then the last box if you have outstanding questions that we aren't able to cover today in the public comment period, if something occurs to you later, or if you have ideas for other actions that should be considered, please reach out. We have both a phone number and email available to you. And if you have any accessibility concerns, please find one of the facilitators here today, and we'd be happy to help and accommodate any needs. So with, again, that speedy presentation, because we're really excited to get to the public comments, just want to say again, thank you so much for showing up today. And please continue to engage with us. We're really excited to build a plan that's going to work for the state. So with that being said, we can move on to the public comment period, and we do have a couple more ground rules here. So first, really appreciate if everyone can keep their comments concise and relevant to this grant program. We just want to be fair to other people in the room today to be focusing on this particular grant. If you have questions outside of the grant program, we will be available afterwards and can take your comments at that time. Also appreciate very respectful dialogues because we want to keep the discussion really productive today. With that being said, there's a couple of different mechanisms. I'll reiterate now that we're at this time period for you to share your questions with us. So first is just raising your hand and we'll go around the room if you don't mind commenting publicly. Second is writing your comment on the note card. And third is using the email address, which we'll flip back to that slide. You can send your comments to us that way as well. And in terms of what we will do with the comments, so we have note takers here today ready to write them down as well as recording. They will be documented for input into the plan. So that's our first commitment to you. Second is if you have a quick question, something related to the grant program, we'll do our best to answer quickly and get you that answer here today. If your question requires a little more response or fact checking on our behalf, we will go back and develop an appropriate response, and then develop a question and answer document that we'll post to the website. So if your question is complex, we do ask for your patience with us. We just want to get the best answer back to you. And other people can probably benefit from your questions as well. So I think that's it for, ground rules. If you wouldn't mind just thinking that you might want to raise their hands, they'll have 5 minutes to speak, and then Hermione, I believe, in the corner here, well, raise your hand, when you're at the 30-second mark, so you can know when to wrap your comments. So excited to have the first person speak, and if you could identify yourselves as you do so in your affiliation in Indiana. Yes, please. Yeah, that's me. I was just looking back. I will turn this off.
I am Gauri Sundaram.
Maybe better luck than I did. Yeah.
Could I need my glasses? I am Gauri Sundaram, representing 3 different organizations here tonight. I work for U.S. Composting Council, and I am also the resiliency coordinator for EdCharter Indiana, and I am also the board member of Circular Indiana, which was earlier called as Indiana Recycling Coalition. If I had asked this question 5 or 6 years before, I would have gotten the same response: why food is being wasted so much? Because that's what I did see when I went to my daughter's school cafeteria for the first time. Because they thought I am a person of color coming from a country where food is scarce, but I was never left hungry even single meal, because I come from very good family background. But given that, now I think it's the right time to ask the question. Though we have, I just got the statistics here. Though we have about I think 1/3 of the food that is produced is being wasted, as we all know. And it is the right time again, because yesterday EPA published the food waste hierarchy, where composting is considered as one of the best practices, not only for agriculture, but it is for clean water, food, and air. So my question here is, without any further ado, composting I did see in the draft action, and Indiana, unlike California, where they passed SB 1383, and other states that is leading the composting industry, also having a good food rescue system and good organics ban bills. When and how this grant will be used for diverting organics from landfill, and also work on the food security measures and food rescue measures. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that comment. So I think the immediate answer is that we have it on our list of priority actions. So it's great to hear that something that your organization and community supports. So I think my request back to you is just to reach out to us also via the survey to express that you're in support of that measure. So when we see things that we like on the screen, great to hear about it. We'll try to make sure that gets into the priority plan. And would appreciate your support identifying programs, specific initiatives also that you think will be helpful. But again, in terms of the timeline, if we include it in this plan, it does have an opportunity to develop more fully.
Yes, just to add to that note, I'm working on reforming the Indiana Food Scrap Coalition group, and also I am working on forming Indiana State Chapter for U.S. Composting Council.
Next question.
Hello, my name is Megan Masterson, and I am representing Brown Down Composting. It's a local Fort Wayne community composting organization. I second everything that was just said. And one of the questions I had is more specifics. How does one get funding? So when you're looking at the plan, is it eligibility requirements for profit versus not-for-profit businesses? And then are there any eligibility requirements for how the funding is used, whether it's for actual diversion of waste or if it's for education for communities? Are there any specifics around that? Just in thinking of how that should be planned out.
Great question, and about those specific details, I'll move back with you after this meeting to break it down for you. But right now, the guidance is pretty high level. There's a lot of flexibility for states. So if you have particular recommendations, please let us know. There isn't a requirement for profit or nonprofit, to answer your question very quickly. So ideally, states that can help, organizations that can help reduce pollution can participate in this program broadly. Thank you for that question. Next. Any other comments?
Thank you so much. I think one of the things that people really need to understand that this funding is for the disadvantaged and the low income. And so I know there's going to be a lot of folks with their hands out for these dollars. And so we got to be intentional. And so some of the things, why it's important, the important moment for Indiana and our community. Indiana is a major source of greenhouse gas emissions nationwide. This also means Indiana can be a leader in slowing the climate crisis. In the years ahead, Indiana can access billions of dollars of federal funding to advance clean energy, green transit, sustainable agriculture, environmental justice, and more. The Indiana Climate Action Plan could be a life-changing for our communities and our climate. As a major step in pursuing these funds, Indiana has been awarded a federal climate pollution reduction grant to update the state's greenhouse gas inventory and to create the first ever climate action plan for Indiana. The Indiana Department of Environmental Management is hosting this meeting tonight. We are here to give our input. A year ago, I took a group of youth to city council to ask the mayor to put in place a climate action plan. April of this year, the city of Fort Wayne did move on some things pertaining to city buildings. I'm here to represent Black and Brown people, people of color. My village is 46803 East Central neighborhood, which has been overlooked for probably the last 30 years. There's been no development. There's been nothing in that space. And so I'm here to speak for those people. Indiana Department of Environmental Management should focus on helping cities access Inflation Reduction Act fundings. Cities across Indiana have developed climate action plans and have many pollution challenges. We feel as if you should focus on helping cities access these federal funds. The IDEM should have transparent planning processes and additional opportunities for public feedback, not just a drive-by. The IDM should reject false climate solutions like nuclear, carbon capture, and fossil fuel-based hydrogen, which extends the life of fossil fuels like coal and gas. We want to see public policies and resources focus on expanding access for Hoosiers to benefit for solar. Solar is one of the areas. The city of Fort Wayne, which I see a couple of folks in the room, just recently applied for the Solar for All grant. I just left just this afternoon, Detroit, Michigan, where I was with a lot of folks. I was with people from the Department of Transportation. I was with people from the EPA. I was with people from the Housing and Urban Development. Call out some of those folks, JB. Anyway, I was there with all the folks from Washington, DC. And these folks are telling me they have money hand over fist. And what we should be doing in our climate action plan is stocking some of these resources, making sure that we're taking advantage of the Department of Transportation and some of the fundings where we can help our city link, which don't have bus stops, by the way, but we try to resolve that at their last board meeting. We are pot stirrers. That's what we do. We come into the room to shine the light on those things that need to be seen. What needs to be seen here today is that 46803, 46806, 46816. These are zip codes that have been left out of the process. And if I hear anything about somebody doing something somewhere else in the city of Fort Wayne that does not include 46803, 46806, y'all write this down, 46816. It's very important. Once again, I am here representing those people that weren't able to catch the bus out here to come to your meeting. Access is one of the biggest things. We talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice and accessibility. We can use all the alphabet, but what I do want you to know is that we mean what we say. We are here to shine the light and to get our piece of the pie. Please and thank you. Oh, you can clap.
I think my colleague said it all. Good evening. I'm Dr. J.B. Pressey. I reside here in the city of Fort Wayne on the northeast side, of the city. Tonight, I come representing several organizations. One, the Midwest Building Decarbonization, which we represent 8 states within the Midwest. And I'm also representing Indiana Environmental Clean Energy, J40, which is a Black-owned CBO in the state of Indiana. And that CBO was designed and developed for one purpose, to become a partner in what the state of Indiana is doing. These funds that are coming into our community must make sure that there are partners from our community. And that would ensure equity and inclusion within the plan. So tonight, I'm here just to recommend that you include in this plan, 1, a climate equity commission that will represent people like us. Because I look at your planning session, we're not there. We're not sitting at the table, and we need to be at the table. Secondly, We look at a number of different plans throughout our region, Minnesota, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, and others that have already put together comprehensive climate action plans. And within those plans, affordable housing, making sure we protect the customers from utility companies, from high rate, utility, that we need their protection. So tonight, what I want to do, because we don't have all the answers, but we're here to give you some good input of what is happening around our region. And looking at Indiana, we just come back from a Regional 5 conversation. Indiana does not have a good image throughout this country. We have the highest utility rates in the nation. We have the highest solar cost per megawatt in the nation. And if we're gonna put together a climate action plan, we wanna make sure you get into the community and you talk to the people who are being impacted by these different issues that we have in Indiana. So what I'd like to do tonight, I want to propose a model. Here's a model that, take that out for me. This model was developed in 2021, which was the first state in this nation that put together a comprehensive plan. And this comprehensive plan builds an equitable, clean energy future for all. This comprehensive plan will hold utility companies accountable. This comprehensive plan will ensure affordable energy bills and expand consumer protection. This bill would also convert coal to solar and transitioning fossil community workers to clean energy workers. This plan will also create and protect good paying, carbon-free jobs for our state. And my question tonight, you mentioned that you have taken this input from the community and you're going to take this input so that you can meet this plan to EPA. My question is, are you going to take this plan to our state legislators who implement the laws that will allow us to have the blueprint so that we will have something that will be workable in every city in the state of Indiana? EPA doesn't live here, but our legislators are supposed to be putting in laws that will protect its citizens. And therefore, I want to present to you this 954-page plan from the state of Indiana. And I guarantee you this, if you implement most of what's in here, I think the people of color, I think the Black community, indigenous community, and other people of color will be proud of the fact that Indiana is taking the courage to come up with the other states that have put together a plan that is going to benefit each and every one of us. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You two were great. Whatever I'm gonna say, no one will probably remember, but I do want to say this about what you said. You're right in these things. This affects everyone. Everyone here and not here. This will be life-changing if we all participate and make it so. So we want to believe you. We want to believe this plan in a combination of yours and yours and yours and yours and mine too, that I'll talk about just briefly later. And it does need updating. You're right. So thank you for saying that. I live in a zip code of 46737, but I have lived here in Fort Wayne. I have lived in Cincinnati. But I'm going to talk to you about how my zip code affects all of us here. I live in Steuben County. And I thought I was moving to I'm all set, I'm gonna retire up there and live a great life. Hold on a minute, not so. I want to tell you a little story. But first, I want to say I'm so happy to be here with Item. I waited a long time to be in a room with Item because we really need you. We could hardly get your attention, really, but we need you and we love you from afar. We have a joint collaboration effort starting here. Now, by job, I'm a registered nurse and certified case manager and could not work without collaboration. So in Steuben County, it's the land of 101 lakes, but we have a problem up there, a big problem, a water pollution problem. It's an E. coli water pollution problem, and what we feel is an agricultural problem, big ag problem. We also have a water pollution problem from algae blooms caused by runoff from ag and lots of other things that should not be happening up there. So as beautiful as that is, Steuben County also has Fox Lake up there. I hope you all know what that is. That's all inclusive. We're one, city up there. We love Fox Lake. We all get along and get together, but we're all in danger up there too. And we're all working to solve this problem. So when you take a walk in the beautiful public parks, want to go to a beach, it could be closed because of E. coli or an algae bloom. You don't let your dog drink. When you're taking a walk and see a lake, river, or stream, you've got to be cautious, and there are no signs up. Item, if you have them, we'll take them. Stop, don't drink here, full of antibiotics or pills or medicine that we don't know about. You don't have a, forbidden sign or don't go in. We'll get a call in the middle of the night. I'm here with Steve, who's president of one of the lakes councils, 10:30 at night, the phone's ringing. The public beach is closed. What are we gonna do? You're right, reach out to the legislators. But anyway, we do have an action plan in Steuben County, but it's gonna take all of us here tonight. We'd like to see that action plan focus a little bit more on public health and quality of life for us all to come and enjoy that, whether you live there or not, whether you're undecided like me now about living there permanently or not. It's a beautiful place to come and visit and enjoy. As long as it's safe, as long as it's healthy, as long as it's not harmful. And that's what we're looking at right now. I'd also like to see a lot of balance that takes place between some of the requests here and some of the things that you presented. We have some concerns that maybe we need to talk about or, debate a little bit more about, because all of this matters. The health and quality of life matters. And I think, like I just said, a balance matters. And that's what I'd like to see here in this room. Thank you.
I'm Steve Schrader. I'm the president of the Steuben County Lakes Council. We've been around for 51 years. In the last several years, through our water testing program, we see that our lakes are taking a big hit. We test 74 sites in Steuben County. Lakes, rivers, and streams. And we're getting to the point in some lakes where it's questionable whether you can even swim in them. When we find a spot that is really polluted, we test it back until we find the polluter. And what we've found is these large farms have so much manure that they're generating that they don't know what to do with it. You can only put so much manure on a field. So where does this manure go? It gets stockpiled, it sits in a pile. Every time it rains, where does it go? Into the earth, into our streams, into our rivers, into our lakes. If we don't get a grip on big ag, Steuben County property values are gonna tumble real quick. Our lakes are gonna be nothing but manure pits. And they've got a good start on it. We've got to figure this out, and we have to figure it out quick. We don't have time to call IDEM and they say, oh yeah, we'll be out there to that farm, but we have to give them 3 days notice. Really? You give it 3 days notice, they'll have it cleaned up. What are you gonna look at? You're gonna look at a barn that's just been washed down and all these animals that normally stand in manure to their knees are gonna be all shiny and everything. Yeah. Let's get some common sense rules that they can walk into a farm with no notice, and then they're gonna see the real picture. So I thank everybody for coming tonight, because this is the start of a very important thing that we need to get fixed. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Karen Corpola. I'm here speaking as a member of the City of Fort Wayne Sustainability Department, in appreciation of items pursuit of this grant opportunity. As previously stated, Fort Wayne released our climate action adaptation plan earlier this year, and we're pleased that the state is putting resources and time into preparing Indiana for the impacts of climate pollution. The draft actions outlined in the stakeholder engagement meetings are key topics for combating climate pollution. Specifically, we would like to emphasize the importance of electricity generation and the development of renewable energy, as well as a net metering policy, transportation, and the promotion of diverse transportation options, specifically public transportation, and waste and materials management, specifically landfill diversion and the promotion of biogas as a renewable energy source. We hope to see IDEM and the state continue their outreach efforts, especially to communities historically marginalized and impacted by the effects of climate pollution. We also have several questions for IDEM and the state to consider, including, and these are a little long, so you don't have to answer them now, but who conducted and with what methodology the greenhouse gas inventory? Will Indiana University's Environmental Resilience Institute and similar organizations be consulted on this and future phases of the project? What is the funding amount being requested for phase 2 of the grant? What will be IDEM's next steps if the phase 2 portion is not awarded? And what funding will be available to local governments for climate action plan implementation? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hannah Arthur, an architect here in town. I come representing the American Institute of Architects Indiana chapter of the Committee on the Environment. And just glad that this is happening and there's so many important things. So my thing I'm here to represent is the fact that the building sector is such a huge component, construction, operations and everything. So I guess my question is how, with Indiana being so far behind, and this doesn't have to be answered now, as far as building codes go, if there are mandates that try to increase efficiency, you know, those need to be updated too. So I guess it goes along with, you know, getting legislation involved and everything. So I'm just curious how that plays into the whole picture. And also just say that my chapter and the people we work with, a lot of architects in Indy that, you know, we're available and we're here to, you know, offer support too. So. We have a card.
Good evening, my name is Tommy McComb. I'm a resident of Yoder and a senior high school student from Bishop Luers High School. And I am speaking on behalf of Confront the Climate Crisis, a statewide coalition of high school students advocating for climate change. In recent years, Confront the Climate Crisis has focused on a bill in the Indiana General Assembly to create a statewide climate task force and a statewide climate action plan. In 2023, this bill was Senate Bill 335. As we developed our bill with a bipartisan group of legislators, we have always stressed the importance of distributing funding locally. We believe that items should pursue that goal with the climate pollution reduction grant funding. Each community knows where that funding will make the most impact, so it is of utmost importance that they are given the opportunity to use it as they see best fit. Examples of local projects that can be funded include solar panels for school corporations, as well as school gardens. This past year, I built a teaching garden for my high school and a nearby elementary school. Even within that short span of time, this garden has been up and running. It has made a positive impact on many children's lives. From Girl Scouts to first graders, the garden has taught many children about gardening and in turn their surrounding environment. My garden project has also promoted local and sustainable food systems, which can significantly reduce Indiana's greenhouse gas emissions. However, these projects can be costly. Therefore, it is extremely important that funding for environmental projects is available for school, corporations, and local units of government. And we believe the best way for that to happen is if IDEM distributes climate pollution reduction grant funding to local communities across Indiana. Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts. As a teenager, I'm excited to live in a more environmentally sustainable Indiana.
Councilman Jarrell. I am a community activist with the Midwest Building Decarbonization, Indiana. I'm Justice J40, and I too was just in Detroit with the Region 5 convening. EJ, which stands for Environmental Justice. I wrote my questions, but I will read them. The first one is for the group that gave the presentation. Please elaborate on the state level best practices that were screened. And the background behind asking that is to know more about the jobs that will be produced in 2024. Anything else? Yes. Please elaborate on the initial action screening. That was like maybe the third or fourth slide. It was entitled Initial Action Screening, Job Creation Potential. There were 5 bullets on that slide. Job creation potential. What are some of the green jobs that will be created from the job creation potential? How are you loading the green jobs pipeline? How, when, and where are you including Justice 40? And these questions may sound like the same, but they're not. Because when you look at the Federal Register and what you're supposed to be doing, not just you, your department, but any of the departments that are addressing grants with EPA, You're supposed to be spelling out, working with and producing jobs for, and this is the Fed's term, BIPOC community. BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, People of Color. So I've met with elected officials, state, Congress, and senators. And my question to them, and is to you, where is the money? When will the BIPOC community receive the money?
What?
When?
What?
When?
What?
And how will the pipeline be loaded? And, you know, I'm not name dropping that we went to Detroit for this Region 5 training, but I would like to borrow from one of the speakers. And the guy said, okay, well, in Ohio, we have the 3 Cs, Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. And when they told us we need to start planting the seed, green jobs in middle school, he first didn't believe it. But if you have shovel ready, it sounds like those are gonna be shovel ready jobs. When are the BIPOC communities going to be included in the employment? When are they gonna get their money? When are they gonna get their checks? When are they gonna get trained?
Yeah.
For the green jobs? That is not a repetitive question, that's just key. Please share your answers.
Amen. Thank you.
Oh, you can answer.
Y'all knew we was gonna ask questions. Y'all should have came prepared now. Y'all gotta answer some of these questions. Some, she ready? Okay.
We do have answers, but I do, want to leave enough time for everyone to speak as well, so that's why we will.
Can't hear you, I'm sorry.
She wants to take the time for questions.
I want to save the time for questions, so that's why we've been meeting, more sort of hearing questions than responding, but I would like to respond to some of your comments, because they're so essential and so important. So the first thing, your question was about the methodology. What were some of the state measures considered? So all that, I'm happy to say, is publicly available on the website. So we have a document, a PDF that runs through the methodology. You can also see all of the measures, the full list of 59, I believe, that were initially considered. So all of that's available for you right away. So I'm glad someone is interested in looking through those. Your second question, it was on the workforce analysis. So I do want to comment that for the initial screening, again, it was a high level screening. We have data points available on the impact of bringing renewable development on jobs. So those were some of the data points considered in the initial screening, but there's much more to come. So as part of the grant, one of the activities is doing a workforce analysis, and that will be some work that we'll be pursuing in the next few months after we've had a chance to get everybody's input, all the stakeholder input on the actions that we want to see as part of this plan. So the promise to you is that there's more to come as well. And right now the request is, please do continue to share. So thank you for all the input. Emphasizing that jobs are absolutely essential. Workforce training is essential early on. This is the kind of input that we can take right now. So just thank you so much for your comments and your time. And of course, Justice 40 is an important part of this grant program. So for those less familiar, it's an executive order that says for certain government funding, at least 40% should go to communities identified as go to communities that are identified as low income or disadvantaged. And there's a number of tools available online that you can see, and a number of criteria to use to identify communities. It can include income, education, which is a part of workforce development as well, but also linguistic isolation. So there's many, many factors to be considered. But I think this is a really important part of the stakeholder engagement process. I don't think we want to hear from me on this issue. I really appreciate everyone here speaking on this, and we're here listening. That's the most important thing. So thank you.
May I make a correction on that J40? Everybody's saying 40% of the fund should come into the EJ, mapping. If 100% of that money is needed in those communities,
Well,
that 40% only applies to the federal government. They want to make sure 40% of that money is leaving their coffers come into our communities. But if 100% of that money and those jobs are needed in our community, let that money go there and stop trying to put us in a box of 40%. Because 100% can go into the communities that are impacted the most. So we have to change our ideology on how we're going to benefit those that are being impacted throughout the state of Indiana.
40% is the minimum. It's the minimum.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Lisnickia. I'm from Huntington, Indiana, and I'm also a resiliency coordinator with Earth Charter Indiana, and I serve as the chair of our Mayor's Advisory Council on Environmental Stewardship. Thank you for the opportunity to share community input and for putting the action plan on the website. I have a number of comments that overlap with some of those actions, so I'm not going to go through those. But in regards to rural communities, a couple of things I wanted to say is a lot of communities like mine have started the work of doing climate action planning and building resiliency and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and we need support and funding to initiate significant and meaningful action on those plans and to reach those goals. I'd also like to see more support for regional trail systems and accessibility within municipalities, not just for recreation, but to provide real alternatives for people to get to school, work, places of worship, businesses. As an ag community, I'd like to see more support for the adoption of no-till and cover cropping. Ag producers need support to transition to these methodologies, including technical assistance to help ensure initial successes and to minimize financial risks and other barriers. And finally, as a resiliency coordinator, I've been lucky enough to meet a number of youth advocates who are really incredible and really care a lot about this issue and about their futures. And so we'd love to see the support in the establishment of a statewide green schools program that would answer the call of many of these young advocates. And they want to see their schools powered by renewable energy, utilizing EV buses, growing food gardens, reducing waste and energy use, and standing as hubs of community education and resilience. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is David Van Gilder. I'm the Senior Policy and Legal Director for the Hoosier Environmental Council. And I'm going to be working with you on Thursday at the Conservation Conversation that the Environmental Resources Center at PFW is putting on. As part of the HEC, though, I wanted to share just a couple of 5 priorities that we think this funding should go to, assuming, of course, that Indiana is awarded some part of the money to the plan. First, we need to build climate resiliency into low-income and disadvantaged communities. That's number 1. Number 2, we need to prioritize the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Number 3, we need to expand workforce development programs. These things have been addressed by these excellent questions from others. And 4, we need to include natural forms of carbon sequestration. And the 5th, we need to support alternative transportation. There's a lot of things in each of those bullet points, but those are the 5 primary things that the Hoosier Environmental Council wants to see in a plan that would be implemented. And we want to be able to support, because HEC is a statewide environmental advocacy organization. We want to support everybody who is speaking tonight and others who can't be here. So we encourage you all to reach out to me or otherwise to others at HEC, and you'll get me anyway. And I'd be happy to work with each and every one of you. Two more sort of points that I want to make. Number 1 is for 10 years or so, I taught a class on environment and people at PFW. And every year I stand up there and say that when I was in high school, which was many, many years ago, I was already beginning to learn about climate change. The science was already there. And then I could see, they didn't say it, but the students would look at me and they'd say, so why didn't you do anything about it? Okay. And I would apologize because we failed. This is an opportunity to not fail.
Yes, sir.
This is the time when we tell our young people, we gotta make them happen. And we want them to be involved, we want everybody in the community to be involved. So when I face this class next year, I can say we are doing something now and you're helping.
Yes.
Thank you. Second thing I want to say real quick is there are all kinds of headlines about massive projects in Indiana and locally that have been coming out. $107 million project here, a whole bunch of riverfront development there, LEAP projects, some billions of dollars. I want to be sure that the state of Indiana, through its regulatory agencies, that's IDEM and DNR in particular, is paying attention to these massive projects and saying, we need to impose upon you climate resiliency now.
Yes.
The last thing we need is a brand new shiny thing downtown in Fort Wayne.
Right.
Or out in New Haven, Fort Wayne area, or over in Lebanon, Indiana, that is just as destructive as everything else that's been built up to this time. So we need to make that happen. And that means, and if IDEM and DNR aren't going to do it, we all have to do it. So thank you.
Thanks.
Much, and one quick comment, we'd love to get the detailed list, so if you don't mind sharing with one of us, appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Brian Flory. I am the Northern Indiana organizer for Solar United Neighbors. We are a state and national nonprofit organization that focuses on reducing the barriers to individuals and families going solar, helping people come together and to advocate for our energy rights as citizens. I'd like to begin by thanking IDEM and all of the folks from the state for being here, as well as for applying for the funding to create the state's first ever climate action plan. This is truly momentous. And so thank you for applying for the program, as well as for being here and listening to our comments tonight. I've lived in Fort Wayne for 16 years. My daughter was born here. What our state does for our climate in the present and in the future matters a great deal to me. I worry for what the trajectory is for our planet. I think that it is unsustainable, and I worry about the type of planet and state that my daughter and the little one who's sitting in the back of the room and other children will inherit as they try to build their own lives and raise their own families in the future. I changed careers over the past year, and this was an important reason why. At the same time, these conversations for a state climate action plan present a wonderful and tremendous opportunity, especially if we are able to focus our priorities on people and the planet more than corporate profits. Among the 10 potential priorities that were listed in the slide deck that you helpfully provided this evening, I was grateful to see the first 5 slides that were individually listed. Enhancing energy efficiency, accelerating the electric vehicle transition for private and public use, enhancing high occupancy vehicle options and use, incentivizing composting efforts, and expanding clean energy generation like local solar and distributed battery storage. I'm supportive of each of these 5, but as my t-shirt can probably indicate, I want to focus most on local and community solar. And just emphasize, local solar must be included in Indiana's climate action plan. Policies like distributed rooftop and community solar benefit everyone by directly reducing carbon and other harmful air pollutants negatively impacting Hoosiers all over the state, by creating jobs that you cannot outsource. You can't outsource installing solar panels, and by saving consumers money by cutting bills for solar owners and making electric service more efficient and lower cost by producing reliable, clean energy close to where it is used and most needed. Currently, Indiana does not have a community solar policy.
Come on now.
Community solar enables subscribers to receive credits on their electric bill for part of the energy produced by a local solar panel array. It allows all Hoosiers, every single one of us, to enjoy the benefits of local solar energy, regardless of your housing, structure, or financial means. Likewise, we need a local solar and community solar policy that is proactive and abundantly available to benefit low and moderate income households.
Amen.
As Ms. Sheila reminded us, as Ms. Linda and Dr. Pressey all reminded us, historically, low-income and BIPOC communities have been the ones among most negatively impacted by our state's fossil fuel-based energy generation policies. Indiana's climate action plan needs to specifically include input from these communities and eliminate barriers that limit the equitable distribution of benefits from the renewable energy transition. Let me conclude my comments by stating that Hoosiers deserve these types of proactive policies that address our concerns. Indiana's climate action plan is a wonderful opportunity that must prioritize practical and effective approaches to reduce carbon emissions and other harmful air pollutants. It must not prioritize unproven carbon sequestration technologies or put the majority of our proverbial energy eggs into a nuclear fueled basket.
Come on now.
It is my hope that once this part of the process is complete, and I appreciate you speaking to this earlier, the state will also commit to pursuing those federal funds needed to effectively implement this climate action plan. Without funding, the plan is aspirational rather than actual.
Yeah.
We call Indiana the crossroads of America. Our state is at a climate crossroads. Our children will reap the benefits or the burdens of our choices. Please, let us choose wisely. Thank you.
Let us choose wisely.
Hello, I'm Paul Smith. I was invited by Solar United Neighbors, part of the group, and CEO of Surefire Solar Solutions. And we're based here in Fort Wayne, so 46845. Yes, I will get you some. So imagine in 46803, a customer being able to reduce their utility bill and get it down to maybe $10 a month and have access to clean energy, battery storage at night, so they could charge their EV by 2035, where we have a big plan to go to all electric vehicles, right? Well, you're gonna need to be able to charge their vehicles. In Europe, they had a big problem. All of the EVs and then the grid couldn't support it. Now they support solar and storage. We're gonna have the same problem in the US. I think it's every block can support about 3 electric vehicles charging right now in the grid. So what are we gonna do? Well, if we can provide solar for all of the community, for those that are in need of lowering their bills, charging electric vehicles, we have a great opportunity. And I think using some of this funding to help support that and support some of the things that is making solar less beneficial in Indiana right now. Net metering went away last July, last year. And that had a big impact on solar businesses. I'd like to hire electricians and installers and train more folks on how to do this type of work. But it's hard to make those investments when Indiana's going backwards on their solar policy. And so by taking away those 1-for-1 credits that customers were getting, it makes their savings go down over time to make it really hard for people to do. We also need to be able to get folks that want to get these systems, but have to fund them. We've got to get them access to money.
Yes.
Through affordable loans. And, I can put a system in someone's house for $40,000 for a solar and storage project. But, you got to have cash to do that or get a loan. So we need to make it more affordable, get access to more people, and really work on the policies in Indiana to be more solar friendly, reduce our reliance on dirty energy, and I think we'll all be benefited from it.
Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. The presentations about solar got me riled up. I just want to share with you an experience with solar. My brother lives in Pennsylvania. I spoke to him about putting solar on his house. We looked at it, we investigated it. He took it to another level. I went back out to Pennsylvania and watched them put solar on his house. His bill went from $500 a month to zero. And then he had the nerve to have an attitude when one month it was 13 cents. Then we went to my son's house, which is an hour away from him in Pennsylvania. And we talked to him about it. And he decided, I'm gonna put solar on my house. He called me up and he said, Dad, they're coming to install it. I went out there and watched them install solar on his house. And they put it on and I said, well, tell me what your bill is and how it's going. Dad, my bill went from $400 down to nothing. I am so excited. Thank you. This is what is happening with solar on houses. And there are programs where you can have it put on for little or nothing. You have to do your homework. I had a first grade teacher that said, you're not going to understand this right now, but you must always do your homework. All your life, you're going to have to do homework. And so we did the homework. They got the solar put on their homes. We're fighting now to get this here in Indiana. I've got a daughter in New York, and she said, Dad, well, you got to come out and talk to us about it, and let's see how we're going to do this. So that's one of my next projects. This is real. It will save you money. Does anybody not want to save money? Come on now. Oh, I didn't see no hands. But this is the reality of where we are. And it's clean energy, and we're fighting for environmental justice, and we're fighting for poor people, and we're fighting for justice for everybody, not just one group or another group. It's for everybody. Now, certainly we're going to focus on the disadvantaged folks, but it's for everybody. And we're here because I'm fighting for myself, because, you know, my time is almost up. But for our children, for our grandchildren, for our great-grandchildren, and for our unborn children, we want to leave the earth a better place. God bless you. Thank you.
My name's Doug. I'm just a resident here listening. I would tell you that, and I certainly am not as eloquent as some of the speakers we've had, but I just would ask as a transplanted Hoosier, right, originally from Michigan, at what point does the process become political? Is it an apolitical thing? Is it something where we're reliant on the people that represent us that may not look like the people in this room? So I guess that was just my question about the process.
You're in Indiana, sir.
So I'm not going to answer that question, but I will offer different input. So one of the great things about this program is that it's from the IRA. which has already been passed. So it does allow for some security around this program being implemented and the future of it in the state. So thank you for that comment, though. We can move back for you to you through the Q&A afterwards, but I appreciate that.
I just had another follow-up question, which is, there's been a lot of great input here this evening. How will that input be incorporated into the plan and how will we see that?
Great question. So we are taking notes for your recording today. What we'll do with all the information collected, is this better?
It's
Still?
Use your outside.
I'll use my
Yeah,
outside.
use your
voice.
outside.
So we'll be collecting all this information shared by all of you. Thank you again so much. Feel like we've learned so much by being here today. So we'll gather that information, collect it, identify the things that people are looking for most, the concerns that people have most, and we'll go directly into selecting the actions that will go into the priority action plan, which will be published. And we have actually a next step slide, which we can show up on the screen. The draft will be made public in about the February timeframe this year, ahead of March. So you'll be able to see, hey, here's where our input was reflected into. But absolutely fair question. Appreciate that.
Just.
If I could give a recommendation, you're going around to, how many cities you gonna be?
Four.
You got 4 cities you're going to, right? And these are basically the larger cities, within our state, or?
It was a mix of factors that were used to identify the locations included in this plan. And I'll also open it up if IDEM would like to make any comments, but we're covering Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, both for size of the location, Portage to get some communities up, Gary, Indiana in particular, closer to South Bend. And then the last one is near to Evansville.
Okay.
So again, to have representation across the state. We felt it was important to be in person. I think it does make a difference, but we're also live streaming these events. We're publishing the recordings. We're getting things out as best as possible via listservs, anybody's email blast that we have, reaching out to some reporters as well to share the word. So to your point, we're trying our best to get outreach and any more recommendations you have. If there's any listservs we should be tying into, please do let us know.
But my comments, but let me answer my question. My question is, you're going to all these cities. Here's a recommendation. You have to allow those who are giving the input. I think you need to develop some type of advisory to what you're doing to make sure that our voices are really being taken into consideration. Because when I come into a meeting like this and say a public meeting for input, well, when we came in here, you already came in here with 10 areas that you've already identified. And basically, that's not the community. That's coming from your committee based on the grant that you have put in place. And we want true voices from our community to make sure that this plan that you're putting together is going to meet the guidelines of the Department of Energy. And right now, I don't see this plan meeting the guidelines of the Department of Energy because Black people are not involved in this process.
Thank you for expressing that. I do want to say, these are draft actions. We have shared a full list. We're open to other ideas. So that's not necessarily what will make it into the final plan. We would love for other voices to be heard. That is the step we are in the process. So again, through email here today, please let me know if there's other ideas that you have that you think will meet our goals better. We are here to hear them. That is exactly the step. We would love other voices to be represented as well. Those are ideas right now, and we need this broader input.
Okay.
So absolutely,
Don't take
absolutely.
any of this stuff personally.
Yeah.
This is who we are, community. But I wanted to add on to what she said. Is there a living document that we can review or go and visit and see what's going on in real time? So, I mean, that's a recommendation.
The answer is yes. What we have so far is that PDF methodology. You can see everything we've done. It's all up on the
But I mean,
website.
real time, like the stuff, like the comments that, we talk to the choir over here. Maybe the information that's being tracked at these town halls, are those in that living document?
Right now, we have the draft act. The short answer is no.
Okay, so
Um,
that's a recommendation. Just a
Okay, so
recommendation.
published, we are recording the public meeting, so everyone will be able to see the comments, at least from today, but we'll start thinking about how to make other things.
I think that would be a great thing. That way we could go and see what you're going and what your next steps are. Because this is a process. There's a phase two. We're talking billions of dollars. So we want to position ourselves to be able to receive it.
Mm.
And so the people that need to be at the table need to be able to see this living document
Sure.
so that we know what is missing, so that we could put those things in. This young lady spoke about water. We can't even live without water.
Come on now.
So this is a priority. We know that there's certain things that need to have a big bow. These young people know what I'm talking about. So we need that living document to drop into those ballot folders. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just to add to all these, if there is like a dashboard
Mm.
of the survey, because if the data is transparent,
Right.
then it helps us, all the stakeholders here in this room,
Yeah.
to build more percentage and cover to allocate the funds accordingly.
Yes.
So, I mean, Planco is the biggest global organization, like many countries have a dashboard that is transparent. If you have a dashboard like that, where all of us can access, that will be really great.
I like that. I like that.
In other words, we're trying to build more trust. Indiana got a trust problem in leadership, and we're trying to build more trust, for what you're doing. Because right now, our legislators have let us down.
Yeah.
And the people who are poor in this state are being impacted from many of the decisions that they made at the State House in this last legislation. And here's what hurt me. I'm a part of what they call Sierra Club.
Yeah.
And when we looked at what happened in our state legislature, it's a shame that the world have to see that Sierra Club looked at what was going on, and they only gave us 3 definitions of what these leaders did to us in the state of Indiana. There was hate, harm, and greed that came out of our legislature. And it doesn't help us a bit when they are making decisions that feeds into their pockets and show that they hate the taxpayers and they're harming us. And we want more trust in what you're doing because of meetings like this. Thank you.
And we probably all need to stick around, you guys, and exchange, nothing against you, exchange numbers, because it sounds like we're all doing some stuff. I've worked with Gory before, I've worked with the city of Fort Wayne before, and worked with Brian, so we all probably need to have a meeting after the meeting about what our next steps are, because we're gonna have to put this together to give to them, so they can check all of the boxes of what we need. Do y'all agree? Just take a couple of minutes, we'll change.
And one more point to your comment on having a dashboard, having more transparency on the results throughout the process. One thing that would help us get there is have respondents, try. Maybe the other.
Yeah.
one. Yeah, it could be better. So one of the things we request that is please fill out the survey, please share it with your friends, the people who don't have time, to your point, to take an hour and a half out of their weekday night, have other things. The more responses we get, the better the data will show that, hey, this initiative is really important to a lot of people. And the more zip codes we represent, the more we can make sure that we're representing broader communities, that would really help us out. And so please do spread the word. Please get your friends to sign up and fill out that survey too. So just a plug.
Thank you.
Responses be collaborative, like maybe including item in some of the responses. We'll see.
In the survey response?
The survey response, some of these questions that you brought up.
So item is definitely present here today.
Yeah.
And we'll be seeing, our notes, the way we collate everyone's input, collect things and bring out ideas for actions, concerns. So we will be providing all that input back to item for review. To your question on the survey isn't for item, it's for stakeholders. Yeah. Oh.
Right, like,
Yes.
maybe add these to your frequently asked questions.
Yes, that
Maybe
would be-
you can young people, add those to the list.
Absolutely. So, and yes, we will be developing, and I'm glad we're developing that question and answer format, and we'll be posting that as well. So we can add it to the list. Awesome. Excellent. I do know we're moving through time tonight, or making our way through our hour or so. Are there any other comments that have not been heard? Anyone who's sort of waiting until last minute? I would like to make sure we've heard everybody today.
Just one thing, are any schools, like, on the education perspective, has it been like brought out by the comments you received before?
In our previous meetings, yeah, some schools were using schools as a focus of implementation, specifically for solar was brought up in our previous meeting.
We would like to be a pilot program here in Fort Wayne. It's really important that you put that word in front of their pilot program, because we're gonna walk out of this room today to do something. But we want to make sure that Fort Wayne get their piece of the pie, and that we are able to do some of the things that we need to do in this northeast corner. Thank you so much.
Any other?
One thing I haven't really heard of is education. We're all here because we understand the importance of taking care of our environment, the changes that need to happen. But on a whole, it feels like the community is very undereducated on the importance of these things. And I think we want some funding to go towards making sure that the greater community is educated on the importance of solar, the importance of, you know, what animal agriculture does to our environment and our water, and the importance of, you know, waste reduction to landfill is very lacking.
I got one last. Here's my comment, and I have to stand on this. How many business people do we have in this room? Who own businesses? How many of you are a part of your Chamber of Commerce? How many in the chambers here? The tragedy that I see about this meeting tonight, it's been publicized that this is a public meeting for the benefit of those in our state. Where's the Chamber of Commerce representation in this meeting? I went to a chamber meeting this past April where the chamber in the greater chamber wanted to showcase corporations in this community that have put solar on their facilities. And in that meeting, I asked, why did you do it? The only reason why they put solar on their facilities was to increase profit margins, not to decrease greenhouse gas emissions. That is far away from them. We need our business community to show just as much concern about climate change and greenhouse gas emissions reduction in our community if they are going to be good citizens in our community, and if they want us to do business with them. They need to be at the table because many of them have direct influence to those legislators that are voting against us. And they should be working for us for the betterment of our community. Thank you.
That is a great comment to end on. So I think if we want to move to next steps, just so you have a summary, again, please provide input to us. We have a survey. If you have more details to share, email us, reach out, and please share that information with your friends. We're really excited to get everyone's input. We'll have that Q&A posted online with more details. We'll consider a lot of the feedback, all of the feedback collected today. So thank you for spending the time with us. It has been, one more comment.
One more. This young man in high school went up and talked, and I just want to say that I was at a meeting recently in Fishers, Indiana.
Oh, they got it.
And they've got a great solar program down there that I think is replicated across the state, where they have huge buy-in. They have, they actually take the kids out to the solar array as part of the class to teach them about what the solar is doing and how it's helping the planet. It's saving money on their bill, it's charging their electric buses now. It's doing just an enormous amount of things, but they've got a really good program there that can be replicated. Their head of maintenance down there, Bob, a great person to talk to do a whole presentation on it. But I think this program, if you can get funding towards that for schools and not just the expensive, you know, yeah, public schools and, you know, those that really benefit from it. I think from an educational standpoint, as that gentleman was talking about back there, that would be helpful as well.
And we did write that in the city of Fort Wayne, Solar for All. We wrote education in there. We got a letter of support from Athens Career Center. So we are thinking outside of the box and, but Fisher is a very unique situation. We all know the income and the taxes and everything else, but these funding could help us do that with some of our public schools out here.
Great, thank you for that. And you said Fisher.
Fisher's in
Sure, we got that. Awesome.
Sand Creek Intermediate.
Okay. Cool. Well, with these next steps, and again, survey link around the room, I think I'll leave this for today. Just thank you again. It was such an honor to hear from everyone. Doing such great work. So thank you. Really.
Bother you for a card, sir?
What I'm gonna do, yeah, I'll.
I think all of them.
Look, I just want to.